I'm hoping that this video changes your mindset about the value of web design. Not just the value of web design in general, but like your value, like what you bring in terms of value to your clients. And let's take a look at it in 3 different ways. One way is, let's take a look at some stuff that you could be offering, but maybe you aren't. Another thing is, let's take a look at some stuff that you actually are doing, but probably aren't billing for. And then the third, I'll show you an example of how all of this came to life. So right off the bat, let's do like a mental exercise real quick. Think about a project that you've worked on, and maybe you charge $2,500. That seems like an average price for a website or whatever. And maybe the client was pretty happy with it. But just think about that project and what it entailed. And then ask yourself, is there anything else you could have done that you didn't do because you felt constrained by the parameters of the project? The price, the resources behind the project. Like if I had more time, more money that you could have put into it, what else could you have done? For example, maybe you could have tried a couple of different versions of the homepage to see what converts better, or different headlines, different flow. Maybe you could have put a couple of different lead magnets, different email opt-in forms on there, and every few days swap it out with something else and see what converts better. And then once it does, so now you're collecting these email addresses. Maybe you say, well, what are we going to send? Maybe we have like a drip campaign that goes out after people opt into the lead magnet and people are dropping off after the second message. You're like, oh, I wonder what's going on in that second message. Can I tweak that and maybe make that better so they can actually get all the way to the third message or whatever? So you're putting all of that in place. Or maybe with the copy itself, it's like, how many times have you had a project where you're just like waiting on the client to give you copy, waiting on the client, and then finally they give you the copy, you squirt it into the website, and then you're okay, I'm done. Well, I remember one time, this is like when I first started my web agency. I work a lot with like doctors and medical professionals and stuff. So I had this project with a doctor, it's like functional medicine doctor, and I was really excited about the project. Like I felt like I'd done a really good job building the website. He sent me over the copy and everything. I added it, and I just was really happy. It seemed like a solid site, and the project was basically finished. We were going to go into the final meeting for final approval before launching the site. And the doctor says, hey, what did you think about the copy? I was like, what? I didn't have time to read that. He's like, you didn't read the copy? It's like, no. It's like, it did. And at the time, it didn't even occur to me to even put the time into the project to do that. It's like, I just didn't even feel like it was my role or my responsibility until it was kind of brought out into my face. It's like, well, why didn't I do it? It's like, I obviously know a ton more about on-site SEO and how long the paragraph should be and how many headlines you need and breaking up the copy with images and like all of this other stuff that could have made the copy better without changing the content of the copy, but just like making it more marketing friendly as opposed to like content for a medical journal. It's like I could have done that, but it didn't even occur to me to add it into the project or any of the other A/B testing stuff that we were just talking about. It's like once you begin to see that, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff I could be doing that I'm not, or even going so far as to writing the copy yourself. Like one of the things that we do in DoubleStack is I show you how to interview your clients over the phone or over a Zoom call or something like that, and you record the call. It's actually really helpful if you can do it over a video meeting because the body language helps you get the tone right. But you record all of that stuff and then you write the copy yourself. And then there's another $1,500 at least because you wrote the copy. Plus you get it all in like 2 days instead of like 2 months of waiting or whatever, right? So like all of that is to say that there's a lot of stuff that could be added into the project that would legitimately get better results for the client, but it just doesn't make its way into the project because you feel constrained over the budget or something like that. And so my encouragement is, why not have multiple versions of the offer? Like at least have an option to go all in, like have an all-in top of the line option. And then you can also have like a medium one and a small one, like scale it back if you need to. But nevertheless, at least offer it so they could say yes. And I actually think you'll be quite surprised at how many people do say yes. And by offloading the work so they don't have to do it and giving it to you so that they actually get better results, I think you'll be surprised at how many people say yes to that. And I know for me, that fundamentally changed the value that I viewed with regard to how I interact with my clients. Okay, so that's thing number 1. If that makes sense, give me a thumbs up, let me know. It also makes me happy when I do it. And what do you think of these glasses? I got these new like blue light blocking glasses. Let me know what you think about them. So, okay, thing number 2. Things that you are doing but probably aren't charging for. This is another like completely mind-opening thing that occurred to me as I was building out our agency too. So there's so many things that you're doing that you don't really even think about in terms of the price and the value of these projects, like project management, for example. Especially if you're kind of working on your own, it's easy to think, well, I'll just figure out like how much time does it take while I'm sitting at the computer building stuff. And it's easy to overlook like the phone calls that you get, the change requests, going to the meetings, driving to the, like all the time that it takes to interact with the project itself. And like, what if you were ever to like scale out and like you actually had a project manager? Like if you're not charging for project management, then that person has to work for free. And if you think about yourself as kind of doing everything all at the same time, you're still doing the work. So like that part of you is working for free. Same thing with like managing your team, like internally. So like project management is what I think is like external, like you talking to the client, but managing your team is like you communicating with the client said to the people who are actually going to do the implementation part of it. And sometimes that takes some time, especially if you're outsourcing or if you have employees or whatever. And so that should be factored into the value of the project. The tools that you use, like your laptop, your mic, your camera, whatever, all the different stuff that you use, licenses for things, plugins and themes and software and whatever, like backup plans and servers and hosting and storage space, like all of that stuff is, those are costs. Maybe they're shared across multiple projects and other things that you do, but you're still using your laptop to build the website. And at some point, you're probably going to get a new one, right? And you're going to want to upgrade and keep your stuff fresh. And so that should be at least some part of the cost of the project. Same thing with office overhead. Like even if you're working out of your house, you're still paying for heating and cooling, and a portion of your house is devoted to your office and chairs and tables and desks and printers and paper and all the stuff that you use in your office. Like that should be factored into the value of a project. Your education, like actually knowing what to do in the first place. Like, and you want to take a course, right? You might want to go to a meetup or a networking event of something. You might want to go to WordCamp or travel. And of course, if you go to a WordCamp, you got to travel, then you got to stay somewhere, you got to eat something. It's like the cost of doing all of that. I mean, ultimately, the reason you do those things is to be able to perform better at a higher level for your clients. So like you're taking the information that you're learning at these conferences and bundling them into your project so you can perform at the level that your clients really are counting on you for. So that should be contributing to the value of the project. Your marketing, like what about the cost of getting the leads? Like that should be something. And that's a really easy one to overlook too, especially if you're just getting started, because most of your clients are probably coming in word of mouth, which is free, right? There's no cost of acquisition, which is really good, but it's also very sporadic and you can't really count on it forever. It tends to, so here's a quick tip that I've noticed about startup businesses in general. In the beginning, like usually for like the first year or so, you get a lot of word of mouth referrals because people are thinking, oh yeah, there's my friend, this person's starting up their business, and people kind of have you kind of on their mind, sending referrals in your way. And then after a while, it's just like, oh yeah, you're not really on their mind anymore and the referrals dry up. So it's really, really common for you to notice that the referrals dry up about a year into the business. And then you're just kind of relying on you to do the marketing. And so it's going to cost you something now for the cost of acquisition for these leads. Even if you're not running ads, you still probably maybe join a chamber of commerce or a BNI group. And not only is there a cost to actually joining the group, but there's also your time where you're actually spending your time interacting with people. So that should be built into the cost of the project. The profit, do you ever think about what's the profit margin? There should be one of those. So all of that stuff is stuff that kind of goes into a project that you're doing it right now, but maybe you're overlooking the fact that it's not really baked into the pricing of your projects. So that's thing number 2. And for me, those 2 realizations of things that I could be doing, but I'm not, and things that I am doing, but I'm not charging for. And then we kind of like lump those 2 things together. That's a huge shift in terms of the value that you bring to your clients through the work that you're doing. So here's an example. So I was working with this lady in DoubleStack, and she was a school teacher and also wanted to kind of stop teaching at school and stay home because she was about to have a baby and she wanted to stay home with the baby, at least for a couple of years. And but she had this web design business that she had on the side, but the most expensive website she'd ever sold was $1,500. And so she gets this lead from a guy that sells like a piece of exercise equipment that he wanted to actually get into like schools and gyms and like you sell more than one piece at a time. Like instead of to like a residential home user where you just kind of buy one, he had the idea, well, if I could get my equipment into schools and gyms, then they would buy like multiple stations instead of just one. Anyway, so she gets this lead from this guy with the exercise stuff. And she's thinking, well, what should I offer? And so we talked about all the things that we just went over, about things that she could be doing, but she's not, and things that she is actually doing, but isn't charging for. And well, I said, well, why don't we just put an all-in price tag as an option for the project, and have maybe a couple of prices, have like an all-in, like this is the best thing we could possibly do, then maybe a mid-tier, and then kind of like a starter package. So you have a couple of options, right? And I said, but at least do the all-in. Like out of all the things that you could think of to get the absolute best results, why not at least offer that, right? They don't have to say yes to the biggest one, but if they want to, why not say yes? So that would be like writing the copy and multiple A/B testing of the lead magnets and the drip sequence and the landing page and like all of the different things that you could be doing just to get the absolute best results out of it. Just put that in there. And so we talked about it, and it came to a price of like $35,000 in terms of like the annual value of building everything out and kind of managing it for 1 year. And I remember she's like, I can't believe I'm even writing this number on the proposal. It's like, this is like 30 times more than anything I've ever done before. I was like, it's okay. But the key to the whole thing was she actually believed that it was worth $35,000 because of we pulled out all of these nuances that often get just skimmed over. And I said, like, look at the value of all of these things and what it's actually worth. And also look at the outcome to the client. Like if we actually hit some of the projections that we're thinking about, okay, the project is 35 grand, but that guy's probably going to make like $500,000 selling this equipment, right? So like a huge benefit to them. So it's like the ROI is awesome for everybody, right? So like if everyone is winning, why not offer it? You see what I mean? So anyway, so she did. I forget what the mid-tier and the starter package pricing was, but it was lower and everything. But it's like 8 o'clock that night. So I started getting all these text messages like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. This is unbelievable. He took the biggest one. He did it. I can't even believe it. And so like she had replaced more than the value of her entire year working as a teacher at the school with this one project. And of course, then she could duplicate that in the future too, because now she's got the pattern and she knows how to do that. And so she entirely replaced her entire income with one project, working from home with her baby, and like it's like it was primarily a mindset change. Just thinking about what are some things that I could offer that maybe I wouldn't otherwise because I feel restricted by the price or something. What are the things that I actually am doing but I'm not charging for? And then at least present an option for an all-in version of the project. And I think, let me know what you think. Does that change your understanding of the value that you're bringing? Because so many people that I talk to just undervalue themselves, and I don't want that to be you.